All right, I believe I am recording. Yeah, should be good to go. So I guess let's start off with why does Zeepkist actually need a time correction feature in the first place? Why can't we just use the time that the car hits the finish block?
That is a very good question. If you've been a game developer for long enough, it's also really obvious. But I understand people might not know, so let's just start there. Video games run on a frame rate. Like we all know, the 60 FPS is good and stuff like that. And that means that your time is divided into chunks of frames, and a frame has a specific amount of time that it takes. Um, During frames, the game calculates stuff and physics and whatever. So let's say you're moving, you're not actually moving continuously, you're skipping ahead through space over an interval which is the same time as the frame. Does that make sense, or is that like a little bit too complex?
No, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So,
So,
oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
So is the physics frame rate, so the frame rate that it's calculating, uh, that's self-explanatory. The frame rate it's calculating the physics at is that the same as the frame rate that the player sees on screen?
It is actually not. In some engines it is, but in Unity it's disconnected. You've got the physics frame rate, which in Zeepkist's case is 1/90th of a second, and that's disconnected from the display frame rate. And what the game does is it calculates the physics separately and then translates the positions of the physics to a more smooth display position. So let's say you're playing at twice 90 FPS. So let's say you're playing hypothetically 180 FPS. What Unity does is in the frames that no physics happens, it takes the point in between physics frames. So let's say you're at 10 meters at one physics frame, 20 meters at the other. The frame in between that gets displayed is at 15 meters. That's interpolation of the physics frames which gets displayed.
Interesting.
Um, and then back to your question, why do we need time adjustments? It is because collisions happen on the physics frame rate. And what that does is it creates, um, this segmented time keeping. So the difference between times can only be as small as the physics frame rate. And because Zeepkist is like all about going really quick and really fast and stuff, what happens if you don't adjust the time based on something else? People will start setting the exact same times because their runs will take the exact same amount of physics frames. And that's why that happens.
All right. So I guess let's talk about uh, what does the time correction feature actually do? Like when it's correcting the time to make it more accurate. Yeah, how does it work? What's it actually doing?
So what it does is the collider of it's not a collider, it's a trigger. The trigger of a checkpoint is bigger than what you see. Like it's quite a bit bigger than just a flat green force field you see. So you always hit the checkpoint like way ahead of where the middle of the checkpoint actually is. So first of all, that's the position is incorrect based to the checkpoint. So then what I need to do is I need to take into account the velocity of your Zeepkist. I need to compare that to how far away you are from the actual center of the checkpoint. And then it calculates how long it would have taken you to go from that position where you actually hit it to the middle of the checkpoint. And that extra bit of time, which gets added or detracted from your checkpoint time, that is what makes that people who run the exact same amount of physics frames in a run will still have different times because their velocities are slightly different and the positions at which they hit the checkpoint are also slightly different.
Interesting. So, what about the finishes that are, the force field finishes? What about those is different that allows for the time warp bug to happen?
So the issue with those is that originally I didn't even want to use um, finishes like that. Like the original idea for a finish was it's a ring, and inside of the ring there is a center, and the center is always in the middle of the ring, um, and you cannot enter it from outside of the ring, basically. So it's just a flat plane which you drive through, basically. Math there is very easy because you can just say, okay, I'm here. How far am I away from the plane? Okay, fine, done. However, then people were like, yeah, but we would really like to have volume-based checkpoints. You know, I want to make a sphere or a cylinder or just a huge cube. And I was like, that sounds fun, but it's also gonna be difficult because a sphere can be entered from every single direction at once. So, with a ring checkpoint, you can enter it from the front or the back. So we know, okay, we need to calculate from the front or the back to the center. With a sphere, because you can enter from the side or from the top, you are essentially entering from the exact angle of the plane, at which point the original calculations for the ring checkpoints don't work anymore because you're entering at such a shallow angle that it's just like the numbers get silly. So the original thing doesn't work. I will send you some pictures probably to help explain this because it's a bit difficult to explain with words. So what I do with the shape checkpoints is instead of saying this is the front and this is the back of the checkpoint, as soon as you hit the trigger, it creates a new plane which is rotated towards your velocity vector. So whichever direction you enter from, you will always be calculating to a plane which you're hitting head on. And the center of that plane is in the center of the trigger, of the sphere, of the cube, whatever. And this works totally fine if you're like kind of hitting the sphere head on or whatever. But let's say you take a cube and you stretch out the cube really wide, and then you hit the cube at an angle. What happens is that because of the way the shape checkpoint calculates how far away from its center you are, it creates a plane in the direction of your velocity at the center of the very wide checkpoint, which at that point might be behind you. So then you are already way past the point where it checks um, your time, and it detracts time from your actual time. And the longer or wider a checkpoint becomes, and the shallower your angle, the bigger that time can become. And in a sense, it's not actually like a cheese or a glitch or a cheat because it's totally consistent with the way the physics, with the way the rules are, with the way everything gets calculated. Like it's not random or anything. It's just not perfect because of the way the system is set up.
Okay. That's a very helpful answer. So, you remember the like older version that was discovered with like the death finish where you'd hit your head on the finish ring and it would give you a negative time warp?
Yes.
Do you
Um,
Oh, sorry.
that's exactly the same thing as what happens when you just hit it at a very weird position at a shallow angle. Because as soon as you hit your head on a ring checkpoint, um, your guy gets like teleported, like your ragdoll appears, and it appears 1 meter above the Zeepkist. So you hit the underside of a ring, and your guy appears inside of the ring, usually with upwards velocity. But because you're then hitting the checkpoint with a very, very, very shallow angle, um, the calculation again goes weird because you're, yeah, going outside of like sensible bounds. But mathematically, it all makes sense. Like, there's nothing there that's broken or wrong. It's just how the system is set up, and it's doing exactly what I asked it to. It's just not a perfect solution, but it is, yeah, again, it is consistent. And it's not surprising to me either. It's not a bug, just weird.
All right. I have one more question, and or no, I have two more. Sorry, I forgot one of my questions.
Yeah, go
Uh,
ahead.
so in June, you added the square and round plane toggles to the uh, force field finishes.
Yes.
And that's been awesome because it gives mappers a lot more ways to avoid these time warp exploits if they want to. Do you have any future plans to try and mitigate the time warp exploit for the finish types that are still affected?
Um, I think there are possible ways of making it better, maybe, but it's pretty difficult because it's a difficult solution to come up with the constraints that we have in the Unity game engine. Because one thing I was thinking of, when you hit a collider, the game will tell you, okay, what face did you hit on the collider? And if I had that information, like, okay, you've hit the trigger at this point, so this is the face that you hit. Let's use that face as the plane for time calculation. However, hitting triggers does not give you face information. That's just something the physics engine doesn't say. It's just like, oh, you are inside of the checkpoint now. Congratulations. Where? I don't know. What face? No idea. So if there was a way for me to somehow detect the face of a shape checkpoint that you hit, then I think I could make it a lot more reliable and accurate. Um, but that's something I will need to look into. Like that's one avenue where I'm like, I think I can make that work somehow. But yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a challenge.
I have a little follow-up question to that. So, is it possible to calculate the distance to all of those planes on the object and then just take the smallest one, or would that break?
That would be possible, but then it might start taking too long to hit a checkpoint. You might end up with a frame hitch when you hit a checkpoint because you're doing so many calculations. Because some shape checkpoints are, might have a lot of vertices like a sphere, and also it might also not be exactly accurate in some certain situations. Maybe
All right.
it might work. That's my answer here. It might.
Okay. And last question. This is the most important question of the interview, I think.
Yeah.
What is the best type of cookie?
The best type of cookie. Oh, wow. You're really putting me on the spot here. I'm gonna go with, oh, I would love to say stroopwafel, but that's so cliche. Can I say a roze koek? I'm gonna say a roze koek.
For American viewers like me, what is that?
For American viewers, I will send you again a picture. I'm gonna load you all pictures because this is not describable in words. This is something to be seen, and especially it is something to be believed and experienced inside of the Netherlands. Oh, the picture didn't work. Oh no.
Or it doesn't like some types, I guess.
I don't. The guy who came up with what do you call them? Like WebP images? Ah, dude, I don't get it. He was like, you know what works? Everything. Let's break it. Here, there we go. That's a roze koek.
Ah,
and they are so good.
that does look quite good.
I'm almost done drawing you the diagram of hitting a shape checkpoint at a weird angle. And then I'll send that your way as well.
Awesome.
Because this would really help explain everything a lot better.
I think YOLO actually drew one a while ago.
Oh, that's possible. Yeah, I think I've seen something like that. You were behind the check point is time detracted. And then draw a nice little line. Wow. Look at my art. Well, draw some more lines. "90-degree angle. Center." I hope you like Microsoft Paint art.
Oh, I've done some of that.
All right. This is an original Yannic artwork.
Oh, wow.
I hope your viewers will enjoy this.
Oh, they definitely will.
So
It's
this
not
is what
that bad,
happens.
honestly. It's pretty good for
It
Microsoft
is
Paint.
it is really. I think I'm proud. Like this explains perfectly what's going on. Wait, I'll draw you another one. No, I'll add on top of it. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna what color? Pink. I'm gonna pink. Oh my god. The ideal solution, but hard. Sad face. All right, I'm really looking forward to this video of yours.
Interesting. Okay, that's very helpful.
That's what I mean with if I knew the face information of where the player hit the shape, then I could make a very accurate solution. But because that's like pretty difficult to get, hard.
All right. Thank you very, very much for your time. That was super helpful. Uh,
Yeah, you're welcome, dude. Happy to do it.